Okay. Yeah. Hello. So I thought it would be fun. I wonder if I should zoom you in a bit. Let's zoom you in. Better. So I thought it would be fun to kind of copy every other single content creator out there and do a, I guess, interview review, wrap up, everything I've made this year. Yeah, I think we should do one of those. So I have my list and I have my thoughts. So I'm actually going to start from August of 2020 because that's really when I started sewing. And that last quarter of the year, I really didn't accomplish very much. So I think it'll count. So starting in, I don't know what month, I guess August. I don't know what I made each month, I can't remember. But basically, I started with my Arno Dorian's white waistcoat. And Arno Dorian's costume is pretty much what launched this whole channel because I saw it when it first came out in like 2016? Or was it longer than that? But when I first saw it, I loved it so much. I still think it's one of the best game costumes ever. It's just fantastic in every way. And I decided that I wanted the full ensemble. So we started with the white waistcoat, which was made of a beige, I guess, ivory? No, beige. Basically a very light tan linen. It was like a mid heavyweight linen with white linen facing, horsehair interfacing to get those lapels just so, and metal buttons, along with cording details. And maybe it was a bit of an ambitious project, but I think it came out very well despite the fact, because it maybe was like the second or first thing I've ever sewn. And that's when I was using a Singer sewing machine. I didn't know how to work it, so I just hand stitched the whole thing. And then now I've committed to hand stitching the whole thing. Then I decided that I needed some 18th century stays because as I started learning more about historical costuming, historical dress, historical fashion, I realized that realistically, if Arno was a lady, he would probably be wearing stays. Even if he was doing his acrobats and climbing his walls, you could move in stays. They're not rigid and you don't have to tight lace them, and you could do a lot of things in stays. So I figured he would probably be wearing stays, so let's make some stays. So I got an American Duchess Simplicity pattern, the strapless one that has Abby Cox on the cover, and I used that pattern and I used zip ties from boning and I made it out of a purple coutil that I've had for like 10 years. So I used a purple coutil and a gold polyester crepe back satin. And they are a pretty good set of stays though, all in all. I was just quite pleased with the pattern. And then I made my Italian gown plus the bergère, and this was made out of an old bed sheet, and I drafted the pattern using the American Duchess's Guide to 18th Century Sewing. It fits terribly. Oh, it's a horrible fit. I really didn't know what I was doing with pattern drafting, but I just kind of dived in head first, and I ended up with a cute dress and petticoat that doesn't really fit. Following that, I was very much on a Hobbit kick, so I did more of a Hobbity inspired look, a very Bilbo Baggins inspired look, and I made a red skirt with a button placket out of a red linen, and then I made a Hobbity vest out of a polyester suiting that was just the most gorgeous shade of brown, and I still love the fabric even though it was nightmare fabric. And that bodice featured piping in velvet ribbon, some gimp trim along the neckline, and some very elaborate little buttons that were also, I think, metal. Very cute. I still think it's the cutest thing and I love it. I also made a shift out of a white linen. And then we have my Hufflepuff Robes. And this was, I guess, the first real investment, I guess. So that was also using a Simplicity pattern, but I got a little bit bougie on the fabric, which was silly because it's a costume. But I made it out of a matte polyester satin because I can't support silk. But I did, I think I spent fair amount of money on the actual wool, I was determined to make the Harry Potter robes out of wool because for a few reasons. One, because at Hogwarts they will be wool. The reason that the Harry Potter students, like the Hogwarts students, wear wool robes is because wool doesn't catch flame, it smolders. So when you're working with potions, obviously, that's why they wear wool, duh. And it's also cold and it's warm and it's just, I wanted them to be wool. So I bought like 8 yards of worsted wool and made it out of wool. And let me tell you, I did that right in time because I did that probably around February and we had a winter storm and it froze and it was very cold. And we were out of power for like 4 days. So I had a nice wool cloak to bundle up in right in the middle of all that. So it was great. Following that, I did do some Edwardian combinations. I attempted them, didn't work, so I tried again. And I think that didn't work either, so I tried them again. And ultimately what I ended up with, I used a cotton voile or a very, very, very lightweight muslin, some stretch lace, which was a bad idea, lots of lace insertion, lots of muslin, lots of not doing it correctly. I don't love them, I'll be honest. I don't wear them either because I used the wrong lace for the straps. They just didn't turn out very well. So, but they are very pretty to look at on the mannequin. So it's kind of where they live. I will make some better Victorian combinations. Let's just go with that. Some less frou-frou pretty and more practical, I think. So following the combinations, we made our second Arno Dorian waistcoat. This time we made the red one. And the red one was just made out of a red linen that I over-dyed with a bit of brown dye to kind of, the only red I could find in linen was a very bright red, and I needed it to be like toned down into more of a rusty color. I think it's madder red is actually the color that I was looking for. And of course horsehair interfacing, metal buttons again, wooden buttons? No, that one had wooden buttons, a bunch of itty-bitty ones. And the biggest trick of that one was actually figuring out the collar and lapel situation because it's pretty exaggerated, but it's also quite high up because you have the larger lapels of the white waistcoat and then you have the tighter, smaller lapels of the red waistcoat. So that was, and it was also longer because it came out a little bit further down, almost like the hip level underneath the white waistcoat, which was like at waist. So again, it was very interesting patterning that out, and I had a lot of trouble doing it, especially given that, again, Arno is not historically accurate in any sense of the word. I think the closest thing they got to accuracy on Arno was maybe his shirt. Yeah. Following Arno Dorian, I decided to go into Victorian territory again, and we decided to do a Victorian corset that was drafted from Norwo's Corsets and Crinolines, and I'm pretty sure the pattern I used was from the 1840s, except I made some alterations to it to make it fit me, and I also made it a little bit longer, which I don't think I should have done. So it gives me a bit of a weird silhouette. It's one of the ones that I invested more money into, but then I didn't really get an end result that was quite what I was expecting. I used a silk face satin, and I used, what else did I use? I used a silk face satin and cotton twill, and then a silk ribbon, and some lace. And again, I used the zip ties for the boning. It's functional, it's cute, it's pretty, but it's not really my go-to. So, and then of course I made my Boba Fett dress, which I adore completely. I changed my mind. That's my favorite thing that I made, my Boba Fett dress. So it was a dress that I was inspired by the Mandalorian, the black robes with the armor over it. So I used a cotton gauze for the skirts, and I made a bodice for the armor to rest on, and then I just kind of cut out the shapes of the armor plates and just stitched them on, almost like patches. And then I made a shirt to go underneath that where I embroidered the mythosaur on the pauldron, and then I embroidered the, I think it's Jenko's crest. It could be Jasper's. Somebody will come at me and tell me I'm wrong. Maybe it's Jasper Muriel's crest. I'm pretty sure it's Jasper's. But yeah, that little crest that he has right there on his chest plate as well. And then I did cutouts for the Signs of Life bar that he has there. But yeah, no, my Boba Fett thing is like my favorite thing that I've ever made. Particularly the shirt that I wear underneath the pinafore, because I wear that sucker all the time. All the time. I love it. But I also broke the dress, so I need to mend it. It was made and it's my favorite, but it wasn't made very well. And then after that, I kind of stuck with the Star Wars theme and I made my 2 Star Wars dresses. The one in yellow with the Rebel Alliance pattern from Quilting Cotton from Joann's, and the green one, which was the same pattern, just the Empire, which was also a quilting pattern from that same collection. And those are all the ones that I actually filmed and posted about, so you can watch any of those videos on my channel. So that's not all that I made this year. I actually made quite a few more things. I just didn't post about them for various reasons. Either A, I was using somebody else's work and I didn't feel it was appropriate to post a video about it because it's not mine, or it's not a big commercial pattern, or I just didn't think it was appropriate. Or I hated it. So I did not post about it. The first thing I made was a black and white Star Wars dress based off of an Angela Clayton pattern that I got from her Patreon, and I adore this dress. This dress is super cute. This dress fits really well. I love it. It was a black and white Darth Vader Stormtrooper quilting cotton from Dorian's, and then I used what leftover worsted wool that I have on the side panels, and that really made the skirts drape very, very well. I made a Obi-Wan Kenobi costume, which execution, I overdyed a cotton gauze and then I lined it in cotton muslin, but I didn't really get the patterning correct on it, so it doesn't fit very well, and I think it's a little bit shorter than the Kenobi robes need to be, and they just don't drape the way I need them to. So there's some kinks in the pattern that I really do need to work out. Fortunately, a lot of that fabric was gifted to me. I didn't pay anything for it, so it's not, there's a financial loss there. And it's an expensive fabric anyway, because I'd probably continue with the same fabric. I think the fabric choice was fine. I think it was the execution that needed work. So those were my Kenobi robes. I also drafted a pattern for his brown under tunic thing as well. And I think the pattern is solid. I did actually, in fact, purchase some worsted wool for that, because worsted wool is my favorite fabric to work with. But then I got scared and didn't make it because the Kenobi robes didn't turn out so well. So then I'm like, well, I'm not going to cut into this worsted wool. And then I couldn't be bothered to make a mock-up, so it just never happens. But the pattern is still in my pattern bin. It's just backburnered. Maybe, once the Kenobi show, like, once I get a release date on that and I have a goal to work towards, maybe I'll revisit Kenobi at that point. I also made a Queen's Gambit dress and cardigan based off of another Angela Clayton pattern that was taken from her Patreon. This took 3 mock-ups to get it to fit me appropriately, but it is the best fitting dress I have ever made. And it is so cute and I love it so much, and it's in like my top 3 of dresses that I'm just so pleased with. I made a 60s ensemble from a pattern from 1965. I don't know. It was a blouse and pant combination. None of these fit. I don't wear any of it, which is a shame because I really liked the fabric that I used. It was out of a blue and white check fabric that was also gifted to me, which is a shame because I really liked the pattern. It just didn't fit. Then I made 2 pinafores from the same pattern. It's a modern, basic, very basic pinafore dress. One in green, one in a purple plaid. I like the green one better because I did not line the skirts on the green one, but I did line the skirts on the purple plaid. That was a mistake. I made another set of stays from the other American Duchess stays pattern, and I really like those a lot more than the other ones because they are cross-laced, which is incorrect, but they also lace up in the front instead of the back. That's the only reason I like them more. I made that out of the same linen that I made Arno's white waistcoat out of, because I have like 12 yards of it. I bought the gold, it was a really good price, so I just bought all of it. And then, so white linen and a white, or the tan linen and the white cotton twill. And I just used a nylon ribbon for the lacing. Then I made my 1870s B Corset, which probably is the best fitting one and probably one of the better made ones. So I mean, at this point I made like 4. I made 4 other stays or corsets, so I kind of have a better understanding of what I'm doing. I used a B printed canvas, and that one features no cording, but it does feature quilting along the bust and hip gores. And then I used synthetic boning, like a roll of it instead of zip ties, because I figured at this point, this is like my 5th one, I'm going to invest in some boning. So I made that, and that one fits really well, and I love it. It's no frills. It's bound in the same fabric. There's no lace trim. Done. And because it's 1870s, because I needed a foundation layers for my 1870s suit that I'm currently working on, and my tea gown that is in the naughty corner again. I made a 1950s dress off of the same patterns that I used the Star Wars fabrics on. And then I made a 1950s Scallops Dress, which I talked about in my project planning video, but it's one of the ones that just didn't turn out, which was very disappointing. I had also finished a mock-up of an Alexander McQueen dress that I want to recreate, so I can move forward with the actual version as well, since that mock-up ended up fitting just the way I needed it to after a couple of alterations, and it's good. So I did end up making quite a bit, even if I didn't actually post quite a bit, which is exciting. I'm very happy with that. So what I can do is I can actually go through on my little list here, and I can check off what I've accomplished. So Star Wars, done. Natural form suit we're working on. 1870s petticoat we have drafted. The Worth afternoon dress, nope. No progress, except for some research. An accurate version of Elise de la Serre's dress from Assassin's Creed Unity. We have made a tiny bit of progress. We have acquired some materials, but have we settled on a design? No. Have we done research? Yes. A 1960s ensemble. This is actually a pattern that I tracked down on eBay because I bought one at an antique store, and then it said like in the little corner, hey, there's another pattern that coordinates with this. So I tracked that down and I bought that. Do I have the fabric for it? No. Do I have the fabric picked out? Yes. This is a different ensemble than the one that didn't work. A vintage 1959 dress. That's actually right in front of me. I have the fabric pre-washed, and that's it, because I have other projects I want to finish first. A Thomas Shelby inspired look. I have made a skirt for this using the Cunilla skirt from movefabrics.com. I made the skirt, the longer version of that skirt for that one, and I'm working on a shirt for it. So that is kind of in progress, but it's a whole ensemble that I want to do right. So I need to do the suit jacket, suit pants, waistcoat, and then overcoat, and of course I need to get the hats. Obviously Arno's coat is perpetually on my to-do list. I have determined that I don't want to make it out of linen anymore. I want to make it out of worsted wool. So I've been hawking the Burn Trowbridge website trying to find this wool in the correct shade of blue, and I've changed that shade of blue like 12 times. I'm just perpetually looking for worsted wool in the correct shade of blue within my price range. So, and of course I think I want everything that she wears, that Anya Taylor-Joy wears in the Queen's Gambit. And then I have a bunch of vintage patterns as well that I would like to make. So there's still things on my to-do list. There's still things that I am accomplishing and getting done. I think it was a good year for sewing. I think I've come a long, long way from where I began on that too. I've made a number of things I'm very happy with, and I think I've improved on my construction and understanding of patterning and how it works. I have a better understanding of pattern drafting. I can see shapes within designs now, and I think my goals for 2022 would be to check a few things off of my list here on things that I want to make. And then I think also just improve my understanding of sewing techniques. I have a number of books that I've bought about sewing techniques that I haven't even read yet, and I would like to read at least a couple of them in 2022 so I could understand sewing better, the actual process, skill set, technique of sewing. I want to do some more historical research so I have a better understanding of that. I would like to read a couple of magazines from the period, like maybe not cover to cover because I'm not interested in the short stories, I'm not interested in the recipes, but like the actual stuff that pertains to fashion. I'd like to read through a couple of those. And I think I like to learn a little bit more about pattern drafting. So not just, taking a pattern that already exists, be it a historical one or a more modern one or a vintage one, and scaling it, but also like drafting from like a basic bodice block as well, which is something that I've kind of hesitantly started a little bit. My camera stopped recording. Okay, now we know it goes to like 20 minutes and then it dies. But so the skirt is something that it's very simple and very basic, and that is something I drafted from scratch. So it's something I'd like to learn how to do more of, so I could, like, if I see something like these fashion plates, not those fashion plates behind me, the ones behind you. So when I see a couple of the fashion plates out there, I could be like, oh yeah, okay, so we're gonna recreate this. I'd like to recreate a fashion plate at one point. I think that'd be a lot of fun. And then I think I'd also like to grow the channel, but I would like to see a little bit more growth from it, and I know that requires a lot more work than I've been putting into it, because a lot of this year has been very different for work, and that's been taking up a lot of my time and energy and attention. So editing didn't happen. That's something I want to get better at, and there's just I'm ambitious this year, and I hope this year at work will be a little bit easier, so hopefully I'll have more energy to do other things.